Hi everyone, welcome back to another Data Teach lesson, and today we'll be going over an introduction to Numpy, which is part of our data manipulation series. So first of all, what is Numpy? Numpy is a Python library for numerical computing and is primarily used for working with arrays and matrices, and these are types of data structures within the coding languages, and we'll be going over them more in depth later in the lesson. So how do we use NumPy? So first, to use NumPy, usually we would type in our line of code, import NumPy as NP. To break this down further, import NumPy imports the NumPy library into your Python environment. And then as NP assigns the alias NP for convenience. So what this means is whenever we're calling a function from the NumPy library, we can use NP dot the function instead of the whole library name NumPy dot function. This is not only easier for us to type out, but also makes the code more readable and less error prone. So now moving on to what arrays are, we kind of talked about this in the beginning. So an array is a collection of items, usually all of the same type, stored in contiguous memory. So in Python, an array, it will all be the same data type, but this is not necessarily the case in other coding languages. So usually to make an array, you would call np.array parentheses and then your number of collection of items. So in here, for example, we have np.array parentheses in brackets 1, 2, 3, 4. And what this would do is create an one-dimensional array of the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. So matrices are a type of array, and they're actually a two-dimensional array, and it is essentially a grid of numbers. So how you make a matrix is calling np.array and making a 2D array. So if you can notice, there's one big bracket, one right here, and then within the big bracket, we have sub brackets of two. So we have one, two, and three, and four. And what this will produce is a two-dimensional array with two rows and two columns. So you have one, two, three, four. And this is an example of what a matrix is. So how do you create an array in Python? We already showed one way of creating an array through np.array, but we could also use arrange function. So in order to create a basic array starting from 0 and up, you can use that dot arrange. So if you put np.arrange 10, it will produce 10 numbers starting from 0, and then it will produce 10 numbers from there. So if you can notice, it will produce 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, but it will not include 10. So this is because Python uses a zero-based counting system. So it starts at 0 instead of 1. So in this case, you would have 10 numbers from 0 to whatever number you end at, so, which in this case would be 9. But it would be the same thing if in order to get 0 to 10, you would have to use np.arrange with parentheses 11, and then it will produce 11 numbers starting from 0. So going more into our NumPy arrange, and so diving more in depth into the NumPy arrange function. So np.arrange is a function in the NumPy library that generates an evenly spaced array of numbers within a given interval. So as you can see here, we have the syntax. So usually it is np.arange start, stop, and step. So the starting value, the first number is your starting value, which will be included in the array. The stop value is the number that you will want to stop at, but it will not include that number within the array. So for example, if you have np.arrange 1 to 11 and you don't include a step size, maybe your step size is 1, it will do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 will not be included in the array. This is because the ending value is again exclusive and it will not be included within the array. Finally, we have our step size, which is the step size between elements. And this is basically what step you want to count as. So If you don't include a step size, Python will default to 1, but if you do include a stop size, it will skip whatever the step size is until you reached your stop number. So for here, you have np.arange 1, 11, 2, and it will count from 1 to 11 with 2 in increments. So 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and then it will stop before 11. NumPy also allows us to use arithmetic operations. So we have element-wise operations, add, subtract, multiply, divide. This is basically how you would use a calculator on your computer, and it's the exact same symbols. So plus and now asterisk for multiply, slash for divide, and subtract the dash for a minus. Using NumPy, we can also produce summary statistics. So first we have np.max, which will produce the maximum value within an array, and np.min, which will give you the minimum value. And then we have np.mean, which gives you the average of the array. And we have np.median, which is the median value. That is all for our introduction to NumPy lesson, and make sure to watch our next video for to learn about the pandas library. Thank you.